Hi, welcome to the bathtub. This is the old masturbator, Scott Bradfield. I've been masturbating since I was 12, but I didn't get really good at it until I was 14 or 15. And now we've turned it into a YouTube channel called Reading Great Books in the Bathtub. For the next couple of episodes, you can skip these if you just want to listen to me witter on about books. I'm doing a little sort of self-promotion riff on my reprinting of one of my old collections of short stories. It's basically my first two collections of short stories. Greetings from Earth. It was published in England in 1993 and in America in 1996. And now it's being reissued with a new introduction and really, really minor changes. Just really stupid typos that I caught. And I'm going to read, like I did with Millennial's Guide to Death, I thought I would read a couple of the two shortest stories, or two of the shortest stories in the book, in individual episodes. And you can, if you some of our viewers like listening to stories being read out loud, which I can understand, and I'm going to do this for those people. And if you don't want to listen to them, that's fair. Just move on to the next couple episodes, and I only do two of these. The first story I was going to read is one of my favorite stories called Closer to You. Like all of my favorite stories, I had a lot of trouble finding a publisher for it and finding a magazine or journal to publish it. And it was eventually published, I think, in the Tampa Review, a little literary magazine in Tampa, University of Tampa. And I love this story. I always was a big fan of William Faulkner's Sound and the Fury, the opening chapter of the kid Benji, who's clearly he's a challenged youth. I don't know what you call him. He's a challenged youth, and he has a vision of the world that's different from ours. And Faulkner kind of uses the language to represent how this kid thinks and speaks. And I was also a fan of Theodore Sturgeon, who also did a lot of kind of second-person stories in which he dealt with characters who had peculiar ways of looking at the world. So this was an homage to both those two writers who I loved when I was young. It was my father was a special ed, and as a kid, he used to run camps in the Central Coast, which had a lot of autistic kids and aphasic kids. And I used to go out there when I was probably 7 or 8 or 9 years old and hang out with these kids. And they were all very different and very interesting kids and really lovely children. And this sort of is vaguely based on those kids, but I don't know anything about aphasia or autism. So I just kind of invented my own kid, and she has her own way of looking at the world. It's called Closer to You. And there's a bomb shelter in it, which is slightly based on the bomb shelter my father built during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Here's the story. In the sunny mornings, you chase the orange cat across the green grass. Underneath your feet, the shelter, filled with the moon, the rain, and the stars, and the wind, and the orange cat lands on the fence, its orange tail twisting. Its dead sparrow on the crumbling brick barbecue. Big weeds from the barbecue and the rusting iron gate and brown, hollow snails all around. The dead sparrow says when you touch it. The yard says. The underground shelter says. The underground shelter filled with everything that is not you. And the dead sparrow says to your fingertips, your tongue and your mouth, and then Mother on the back porch shouting the no, Stella. And you are no longer Stella, and the dead sparrow falls to the green grass, its words still feathery and wet on your thick tongue. The no in the air, and the orange cat on the red fence, its orange tail twisting. And you think the no at the cat, and with your mouth you say, the cat's orange tail twisting, and the dead sparrow on the green grass. Breakfast time, and you are Stella again, every morning surrounded by the world that is not Stella. House, sun, moon, table, Cocoa Puffs, liquefying margarine, sprays of black bitter crumbs, Mother, Marcy, tablecloth, and Dad. The grandma on the stuffed chair with her food tray and cracked plates, and Mother holds the big spoon. The grandma says, ah, with Gerber peaches on her chin. And Mother says, here you go, Alice. Be a good girl. And Dad says, there she goes. Now she's started. Dad doesn't like breakfast and sits on the sofa wearing his blue robe with the torn blue pockets and says, I thought I detected a minute there. I thought I detected an actual minute of peace and quiet in this goddamn house. and the grandma says, "Ah, ah." So Mother gets the medicine and you drink your juice. Orange juice in Mother's glass. And the Marcy clacks her new pink shoes together, requiring more toast. The Marcy wears red paint on her face today, just like Mother. And the voice in the radio says, "Better, brighter, more beautiful." The noise of the world on your face. You can touch it with your sticky hands. The noise of the world that is not you. And then you say, Dad says, "Great. Now they're both started. It's like a chorale, one vast great vegetable symphony," and takes his Coors out to the sunny back porch. The grandma's tiny eyes are red and wet, filled with words and memories of words. She says, "Ah, ah," her big veiny tongue extruding from her thin, lipless mouth. Her mouth red and glistening, but not like the Marcy's mouth, not like Mother's. The Gerber peaches are all gone, and now the grandma loves you even more, you and your soggy toast. And so you give her some. Every weekday morning, Mother takes you to the special school for special children. "We just hope and hope," Mother says. "We just hope for the Lord's compassion and His love." You hold the seat belt's bright silver buckle in your hands. The silver buckle is a big, hard word and pulls the belt very tight. Mother says the Lord words again and again, and you put your hands together to speak the Lord words too, feeling them between your fingers. Then you get out of the car at your school filled with special children. Big yellow bumblebees on a big wooden sign, smooth and you like to touch. This is your bright smile. This is your round stomach. "Tea, tie, toe, tum, ta, tea," Mrs. Evans says. Her bright red fingertips touch your teeth, your tongue, putting the words there. T, t, with the tip of your teeth, with the tip of your tongue. So you tell her the grandma word, and she gives you a green M&M, and she says, now with the t sound, ta, ta, tooth, tongue, tea, toad, tot, and shows you big pictures in her lap. A big green toad, a cup of hot tea. And you say the grandma word again, and Mrs. Evans has more M&Ms. Red, yellow, black, orange, blue, brown. Because the grandma is a tongue, a tooth, a toad, and all the other special children make grandma sounds too in their big bicycle chairs with their broken eyes and big shiny foreheads, and you're all tea-tie-toe-tum-ta-tea and scrub the stiff colored paper with bright crayons. The crayons snap when you break them, just like mouths. You play in the tanbark yard, bang blocks to music, eat graham crackers, and Dad picks you up in his car with a Coors in his lap. "Who's my little doll face?" he says. "Who's my little cracked brain, my little wordless wonder?" Kissing you with his rough face, taking you home to drink more Coors on the slanting sunny back porch. This is your yard. This is your bright sun. This is your green grass. Dad built the underground shelter in the yard because he loves you. In wars, words fall and explode. In wars, everybody falls wordless to the ground, wordless just like you. Usually wars are on television, but when they become real, dads dig holes in the ground. Big machines come into your yard and eat it. Strange men with hairy arms and beautiful tattoos. But then the war doesn't come, and only you are Stella, only you and the wordless people on TV. You like to stand on the hard wooden lid. You like to point at the big steel pipe filled with spider webs and shrouded, mummified bugs. The hard wooden lid fastened with a big rusty padlock. And then you ask Dad. And then you ask him. And Dad says, "I built the goddamn thing so when the thermonuclear war comes and blows us all to hell and back, we'll have a warm place to go to the bathroom. Now give Dad a kiss and leave him alone." And Dad's rough face says, "Kiss. Kiss, kiss," it says. How'd I know they'd fucking lay me off? How'd I know I'd blow all our savings on that goddamn water trap and the bastards would lay me off? And pulls his blue robe tighter and cinches his blue flannel belt, just like the seatbelt in his rattling car. The same car they drove the grandma home in when the grandma lived in a hospital with the world's other grandmas. The Marcy has her own bed, but at bedtime she lies on your bed to play. The Marcy plays like Mrs. Evans and points, reading you the big red book, and says, "This is the spider, the stone, the snake, the sock." And her finger says, "Point, point, point." Tomcat, teddy bear, toilet, towel, tripod, toad. And you are watching the goldfish in the round fish bowl. The goldfish mouth moves too, just like the Marcy mouth, and you reach for it. The goldfish says, and you say too. And the Marcy says the "no" and grabs your hand. This is a tripod. This is a toad. Now which is the tripod, which is the toad? And you make your finger say point, 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 and the Marcy takes your finger from her mouth and says the "no." You want to touch the Marcy mouth, the hard, round words. You want to take the words in your hand and put them in your pocket with the masticated plastic soldier, the stray pink Barbie slipper, the broken crayon. But the Marcy says the "no. No, Stella, you're a bad girl and nobody likes you. Now go to bed now. Now go to bed now." At night, the grandma sleeps in the blue room, strapped to the crooked bed with the car straps, her eyes wide open sometimes. They are very hard, clear eyes, and the moonlight through the curtains talks in her room, but the grandma says nothing. And you say nothing back, wearing your soft pink pajamas. The Marcy asleep in your bedroom, Mother and Dad asleep in theirs. You touch the grandma and she opens her big black mouth. Her thin hand touches you, grabbing. And you listen to the words in the grandma's head like the words underground in Dad's shelter. Spiders and glistening webs across the grandma's window, tiny bugs blurring and buzzing. The grandma sees the bugs too, the moon and the night and you. And the grandma's veiny hand grabs your pajama top tight and you can't get away. And then you whisper, And when the grandma's eyes close again, you return to your bed and dream of Dad's shelter underground, where words echo and resound, hop and crawl, if only you could reach them. Some days you don't go to school and Mother takes you to the doctor and his gleaming silver tools on a clean white cloth. And you say the grandma words and the doctor puts a mirror in your mouth. The mother says she tried to point yesterday. She pointed at the yard and tried to say something. An S word, I'm certain. When Einstein was 5, he couldn't even tie his shoes, and little Stella can tie her shoes. Mother shows you your shoelace and pulls, and so you fix it. And the doctor says cognitive development, aphasia, phonetic, lexical and syntactic, Lang and parole. And then the mother takes you home to the yard where Dad sleeps on the unsprung porch sofa, and she goes away again. Underground in the shelter, the moonlight's waiting, and you walk across the hollow yard and through the hot sun. If you carry the old wood chair, you can stand and peer into the rusty metal pipe. You can smell the buried life rich with words and water and rust. You reach into the pipe with your hand and pull out ropes of dust, collapsed spiders, and glistening white insect eggs. Those are the words down there. You can hear them in the pipe. Stone, sea, sand, sister, snake, sun, song, soon. And one spider blossoms in your hand and starts to tickle. You hold it in your hand, and it scrambles around this thin, tickling word. S, s. Some words go up and down, other words go back and forth. The spider is a word, the surf, the sand, the sea. And you push it through the pipe into Grandma's world, where Grandma waits in the dark. Spider. Spider, spider. That's what you and Grandma say together, underground where everything is wet and thick and real. Spider. And then you hear a round word, and under the rose as you see it, it is big and fat and green. It says. It's wet in your hands when you lift it to the steel pipe. Toad, it says. Toad. A big green toad, a cup of hot tea. Falling down the long steel pipe where the other Grandma waits for it. Sometimes the Grandma cries at night when you visit, strapped in her small bed, dreaming of the hard, wordless night and all the world that is not Stella. The Grandma dreams with her mouth open, her mouth black and hollow like a steel pipe, her cheeks wet when you kiss them. Like the shelter, The grandma's filled with the world that is not grandma. Words like crumbling concrete blocks and broken red bricks, weeds sprouting and the unsprung sofa and the shelter's hard wooden lid. The grandma has an inside, too, and you touch the tip of the grandma's teeth, the tip of her tongue, and the grandma says, ah, the everything word, ah. The moonlight burying itself tonight in the shelter, spilling down the thick steel pipe with the swift gliding bugs. You reach into the grandma's mouth looking for words there, their hard, glittering edges, like plastic toys lost in the overground yard. In the underground shelter are swamps and sculpted faces, pockets of fossilized bones and fuel, stones etched with prehistoric brains on skulls. Ah, the grandma says, her hands grabbing at you. Ah. This is the secret here, she says. The secret sound of words, the secret dream of everything that is not Stella. You love the word already as you pull it from the grandma's mouth, the grandma's eyes round and wide and glassy, with something which is not moonlight. This is hard. This is real. You place the word on the tip of your tongue, salty on your fingertips. Your throat hurts the word, growling like a dog. Tor, taw, tur, you say, and the moonlight pulsing in the shelter and the toad hopping in the dark. Tord, taw, toad, you say, and that's it there. That's the word in your mouth now. Toad. Its salty taste, its scaly skin. Toad. And the grandma doesn't say anything, just looking at you. Very tired now, very sleepy. Toad, 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 you say. And the grandma says, ah, very softly, very tired, goes to sleep, and her mouth falls open. Then you hear the other word there. Sea, sand, spider, spider, spider. You say toad at breakfast, and Mother gives you French toast with syrup, and you eat the syrup with your tiny spoon and jam with your toast. Toad, 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 and the grandma in her chair with the soggy food, dreaming of other words beneath the yard. Toad, 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 and Mother gives you a big hug, and the Marcy gives you a hate face. But Dad says, it's original sin. My pure little brain case has fallen into the world of already fallen language. Great. More talk, more words. Everybody in the world will be talking someday. Today I think I'll look for a job. I got to get out of this fucking house. And Mrs. Evans says, cognitive aphasia, positive reinforcement, syntactic development, and makes Mother watch as she feeds you more M&Ms. Toad, toad, toad. And Mother says, I'm so grateful to the Lord, and you open the big picture book and point, 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 and everything is toad, toad, toad. And then the other thing in the shelter, the other thing tickling in the grandma's mouth. Spider, you say. Spiner. Spider. Toad, toad, toad. And everybody in the entire world loves you just like Mother. There's no big rush, little cracked brain, Dad says, you in his lap and the television on. There's no real hurry. That's all you're hurrying toward. That's all language is about. And the television says hostages in Lebanon, preschool drug addiction, dioxides, acid rain, and nuclear waste. Fish, you say. Fish, fish, fish. Goldfish. Goldfish daddy. You can still feel the wet, squirming word in your hand. You can still see it falling down the long black pipe. And the Marcy saying, you're in trouble now, boy, you're in trouble now. The round bowl water empty and opaque with tiny white feces. And the next day Mother says, where's our family photographs? They were right there on the mantelpiece. And the Marcy puts her fist firmly on her hips to tell them, but then you say, Mother, Daddy, Marcy, Grandma, Grandma. All those words you found in the grandma's mouth last night, and nobody hears the Marcy say a thing. Now it's the Marcy's words that don't really matter. Kodak, you tell them finally, just to let them know you understand even big words too. Kodacolor, Kodachrome. But the grandma is never happy when you visit, looking at you with her big black mouth open. Ah! All the world's loud words resounding and spinning down there in the grandma's mouth. You try to pet and soothe her. These are the words, you think. These are words right here. And the grandma kicks and grabs, gurgling where your hand is. And so you take your hand back. Grandma, grandma. All the darkness inside the grandma grows and grows, whispers and whispers, moves and pushes. Everything's better down there. Down there, the grandma can be happy again. Down there, the grandma can be grandma again. You lead her down the hall steps. Doot, 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 doot. 1, 2, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 2. The grandma holds the banister because she's afraid. She makes different noises now, wordless noises down in her stomach and thighs and feet. Doot, 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 doot. All the shadows hanging from the walls and furniture and curtains, and opening the squeaky picture window, the grandma leaning against you, her body thin and frail and very soft like a giant stuffed giraffe. The grandma all hollow, spongy bone. The grandma all sound and word and dream. Outside, the night is filled with stars and the big, fat, leaning moon humming there, filling the steel pipe in the underground shelter and Grandma's black mouth. Ah, ah. It is cold, the grandma wants to say. It is hot. It is cold and hot, big and small, boy and girl, happy and sad. Ah, ah. Everything, the grandma says. Everything. Everywhere. The grandma doesn't like the steel pipe, the buried shelter, the heavy moonlight down there just waiting for her. You try to help her into the steel pipe. Down there, the other grandma reaches too. Down there, the other grandma pulls. But this grandma says, ah, scared, but she wants to know. Always the deep earth, always the black night. Your grandma's like the orange cat which clawed and ran away. Grandma, grandma. You try to make the soothing sounds Mom makes for breakfast. There, there, Alice, be a good girl. You like your cereal, don't you, Alice? Ah, ah. Into the steel pipe, but both of Grandma's arms don't fit. Pull her down, the other grandma says. Pull her down to me. And Grandma's big black mouth wide, wide with all the words she'll find down there. Everything words. Ah, ah, and the moon all around, and the words down there waiting with the other grandma. Louder and louder the grandma gets, louder and louder like the moon. Ah. And now you try to help her head into the big steel pipe, but her head doesn't fit. Louder and louder, deeper and deeper, worlds and words, and lights going on in all the backyards, and lights going on in your house too. Light, light. And the grandma crying for the other grandma, for all the words she can't quite reach when the men come with big steel tools and cut the pipe away and pull Grandma from it. Down there, down there. Toads hop, snakes slither, spiders scramble and crawl. Moonlight talks and dark earth listens. Pih, pih. Paper, pin, pickle, paste, plate, pastry, pigeon, plant, person. Person. And now the R words. Ri. Ri. Everything down there in the dark and the water, and Grandma embracing everything too. Vast sunken cities, countries, landscapes, and stars, hissing rivers and steaming forests. Worlds down there. Worlds and words. Ri. Ri. Rock, robin, rouge, rasp, rattle, Dad's graduation ring, the Marcy's transistor radio, and Grandma coming closer. The Grandma's arms big and strong and beautiful now, reaching to hold you, reaching to take you home. You wake up. You sit up in bed. Everything is black. The Marcy kicks in her bed, snorts, and rolls over. Outside, moon talks and deep earth listens. Down there. Down there. In the Grandma's room across the hall, the Grandma's bed is empty. Grandma down there. Grandma caught a cold, Mother says at breakfast. Grandma caught a cold and went away. Then, after breakfast, you all get in the car together and drive to the cemetery. Round brown slopes and green hedges and tidy solid tombstones and flowers in little vases. This is Grandma's new home, this big green yard. You all stand together under the low cloth awning and watch them lower the grandma into her new, dark room. A bad cold, you say, and Mother squeezes your hand. Grandma has a bad cold, and everybody back into Dad's car. Mother snuffles into her handkerchief, and the Marcy reads a Doctor Strange comic book, the king-size summer annual. Grandma goes away, you say, and so you all drive home where the other grandma waits in the darkness. Maybe she's found what we all hope to find someday, Dad says, and now you are all driving into the driveway of your big warm house. The dark clouds breaking apart, bright blue sky blazing through, and you want to tell Dad the secret as he lifts you under one arm and carries you to the front door. Come on, my little sack of potatoes, Dad says. Come on, my little fat bag of laundry. Dad is bigger, but you know the secret. Everything, you whisper. Everything, Daddy. That's Closer to You from Greetings from Earth. I'll try to do one more of these. Okay. And I'm fixing it so you don't have to see my face. It makes it a special episode of the Bathtub. You don't have to see my face. Okay, take care.